Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race and endorsing Kamala Harris? Also, can I talk about the viability of Kamala as a presidential candidate? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, then offer my analysis. On June 27, 2024, former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden participated in a debate in Atlanta, Georgia. Despite having rules which appeared to favor Joe Biden's temperament and limitations, his performance in the debate was abysmal. He was not animated, his voice was weak and raspy, he lost his train of thought, went on tangents, meandered through responses, and was incoherent a few times. Many people viewed Donald Trump as the clear winner, which was concerning to Democratic Party leaders. Despite many people asking Joe Biden to drop out of the race, he refused and insisted he was fine. During an interview with the media just over a week after the debate, Joe claimed that his performance was just an episode and not a sign of a more serious condition. He was exhausted, had a cold, and did not listen to his instincts. Joe refused to take any type of cognitive test and was defiant. He was absolutely certain that members of his party would not approach him about giving up. He said, "It's not going to happen." Over the next few weeks, Joe Biden repeatedly stated that he was never going to quit. One thing was for certain: Joe Biden was never going to drop out of the race. On July 21, 2024, Joe Biden dropped out of the race. In a letter, he wrote, quote, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term," unquote. Later, Joe Biden endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, which drew immediate reactions from both Democrats and Republicans. Now both parties are trying to scramble and come up with a strategy, even though many people thought this would happen. It didn't take long for many Democratic Party leaders to endorse Kamala Harris. Perhaps Joe Biden made a deal with leaders of his party, something like he would drop out, but no one was to interfere with Kamala receiving the nomination. Dropping out of the race was embarrassing for Joe Biden. Endorsing the vice president to take over was a way to protect his legacy. Joe Biden may feel as though he is not losing everything by dropping out if Kamala moves forward. Furthermore, there is the campaign fund situation to consider. Joe Biden can share campaign money with Kamala Harris. The money situation would be a lot messier if someone else was nominated. As the presidential election approaches, Democratic Party leaders and voters are taking a closer look at Kamala Harris. There are many questions that need to be answered. Would she make a good president? Can she beat Donald Trump? Will she be able to distance herself from some of Joe Biden's unpopular policies? Are the Democrats any better off with Kamala, or should they nominate someone else? And why does Kamala struggle so much with verbal communication? Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. A major concern with Kamala Harris, at least for those who value clear communication, is her tendency to use word salad. Over the years, she has made many statements that are nonsensical, disjointed, and incoherent. Her opponents have latched onto these statements as evidence that Kamala is disrespectful, disorganized, and lazy. Her supporters have argued that Kamala's critics are simply functioning as the grammar police. Let's take a look at 12 examples of word salad statements made by Kamala Harris. When talking about COVID, Kamala said, "It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day." In a talk about banking, she stated, "We invested an additional $12 billion into community banks because we know community banks are in the community and understand the needs and desires of that community as well as the talent and capacity of community." On another occasion, Kamala mentioned the word community when she said, "When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community." When referring to a Supreme Court decision, Kamala said, "I think of this moment as a moment that is about great momentum. Offering words of wisdom about high-speed internet, she stated, "The governor and I, we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time." Right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. During a talk in France, Kamala said, "We must together work together to see where we are headed, where we are going, and our vision for where we should be, but also see it as a moment to, yes, together, address the challenges and to work on the opportunities that are presented by this moment." One time when speaking at a college, Kamala had this to say, "I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment, as it relates not only to the past, but the future." Talking about her love of the Venn diagram, Kamala declared, "I just love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. There's just something about those three circles and the analysis of that where there's the intersection, right?" When talking about climate change, Kamala stated, "Our world is more interconnected and interdependent. That is especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address the issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together on to galvanize global action." With that, I thank you all. This is a matter of urgent priority for all of us, and I know we will work on this together. There had to be at least one person in that crowd who turned to the person next to them and said, "So are we working together on this or not together?" I didn't pick that up. When expressing her feelings about a court ruling she did not like, Kamala said, "I think that, to be very honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled." When enlightening a group of people about the importance of transportation, Kamala said, "You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home." Now moving to the 12th and final quote, showing off her foreign policy knowledge, Kamala stated, "Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong." Item number 2, a few patterns are evident in the speaking style of Kamala Harris. She appears to have a fascination with the words time, moment, community, work, and together. She rarely answers the original question or makes any type of point. Kamala is frequently repetitive, but delivers her speeches as if she is saying something profound. Maybe she believes that by being the vice president, anything that she says is automatically amazing. People should be dazzled by her statements, like there is no actual work necessary. Other politicians throughout history who have delivered memorable quotes must have done so simply because they were politicians. Kamala doesn't understand how thought leads to coherent statements. Thinking is actually important, and one could argue necessary. Even though many of her statements are nonsensical, simplistic, and confusing, Kamala has never apologized. She appears to have a lack of insight. If Kamala is elected president, she will be in a position of speaking for the nation. Even people who do not value precision communication may be frightened by this prospect. This brings me to item number 3. As I mentioned, supporters of Kamala Harris believe that her opponents are overly critical regarding her speaking style. Who is correct in this debate? Do people have the right to criticize someone who wants to be the president for speaking incoherently? In my opinion, yes. The problem with Kamala's speaking style is significant. It's not like her critics are pointing out something common like disfluencies or occasionally losing a train of thought. Kamala is speaking in circles and then expecting people to understand what she is saying. This is worrisome considering how a president must be able to communicate clearly. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that she is a terrible person or worse than Donald Trump. Rather, just that it is legitimate to criticize a person's speaking style when they are running for a job that is heavily dependent on communication. If Donald Trump had the same weakness, he would be criticized for it as well. Item number 4. In addition to the word salad, does Kamala Harris have any other weaknesses as far as running against Donald Trump? I think that Kamala will struggle in a few areas. She has a reputation for being short with reporters. She has a high level of turnover with her staff, and she has been known to laugh at inappropriate times. Her laugh is hard to miss, having been described as a disturbing cackle. Kamala's defense of Joe Biden may come back to haunt her. Everyone knew the president had cognitive limitations, yet Kamala defended him and acted as if nothing was wrong. She was unwilling to stand up for what was right. This makes her seem weak, ineffective, biased, and without conviction. Donald Trump has no shortage of flaws, but lacking conviction is not one of them. As a matter of fact, he has dozens of convictions. One major problem for Kamala is that she will struggle to distance herself from Joe Biden. In national polls conducted after the June 27 debate, Donald Trump performed just as well against Kamala Harris as he did against Joe Biden. Should the Democrats choose someone other than Kamala Harris to run for president? Yes, but I don't think they will. For better or worse, Joe Biden has anointed the chosen one, and the party is stuck with his decision. Now moving to my final thoughts. The theme for Kamala Harris is that she is a presumptive nominee who doesn't really have anything to say. This is why she talks in circles, or may at least contribute to that behavior. She does not possess a compelling story. People may get excited because voting for Kamala Harris will prevent Donald Trump from being elected. But Kamala herself is not exciting. She is not inspiring. She is going to need to find and develop her own narrative. Despite her problems, I think Kamala Harris has a decent chance of becoming the next president. Even for those who don't like her or who prefer Donald Trump, this isn't necessarily bad news. Throughout history, in one way or the other, every president has been good for some groups. Some presidents have been good for farmers. Others have been good for factory workers. A few presidents had policies that benefited college students. In the case of a Kamala Harris presidency, the dawn of a rambler-in-chief, she will be good for comedians. It is time for that community to come together, get to work, and live in the moment. Those are my thoughts on the situation with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.